Huggy Wuggy. We see him at the end of Chapter 4, but that raises the question, what will he do in Chapter 5? Well, after I did some digging, I might have just found out that Huggy will be on our side. Let me explain first with his injuries. Now, as we all know, Huggy fell in Chapter 1 and somehow survived, despite hitting literally every vital organ. We know after this he would crawl through the vents we see in Chapter 2 and somehow end up in Chapter 4 where he is repaired and trying to kill us. Now, many people have theorized that it was the prototype who repaired him because of him being right outside the lab. But I don't actually think that that's the case. Here, let's look at his arm. We see bandages to help seal the wound, which we see all around his body. But what's strange is his bow tie, which is used as a makeshift tourniquet, which if you don't know, just helps prevent blood loss. But why would the prototype be using Huggy's own bow tie to repair him? Wouldn't he use something more practical like an actual tourniquet? I mean, he literally lives in the labs where they would need that, and better bandages for the orphans and new toys. But beyond this bow tie, we also see duct tape around Huggy. Why would the prototype use that? I mean, that looks straight out of an action movie. All of this makes me believe that Huggy actually repaired his own wounds from Chapter 1. This would explain all of the makeshift stuff on his body. This also means that Huggy did not only survive the fall, he, while probably bleeding out, climbed through multiple vents and repaired himself with only what he could find. All just to get to us in Chapter 5. Now that's some dedication. But wait, why wouldn't he try to find the prototype to repair him? I mean, I know he's going to the labs, but clearly Harley saw him fall, as proven by the story's so far videos. So why didn't the prototype catch him? Didn't Poppy say that he was on the prototype's side? Well, what if I told you that Huggy is actually against the prototype now? Let me explain with the CG5 music video. The developers said that this music video was canon and actually showed many things in the lore. And I believe that the most important piece of information that we see is in these two scenes with Huggy and Kissy. In both of these, the music video shows Huggy and Kissy seemingly in a relationship and siding with Catnap for some reason, which makes very little sense at first until we note that this music video takes place right after the Hour of Joy, which means it was also before Kissy went to the safe haven. But even if it was before that, then why would Huggy be so good here compared to Chapter 1? Why is he against us, who is Kissy's ally? Well, I believe that there are two main explanations. One, Kissy and Huggy broke up when Kissy chose to go to the safe haven and Huggy chose to align with the prototype. And two, Huggy and Kissy are actually still together, but to stay alive, Huggy temporarily joined the prototype but is secretly still on Kissy's side. Now, although one would make some sense because of how Huggy tried to kill us in Chapter 1, I don't actually think that that's the case. This is because if we think about it for a minute, Huggy would have no way of knowing who we were at the start of the game because he would have no time to connect with Kissy or Ollie in time. So Huggy was actually most likely acting out of desperation for food, similar to how he does in Project Playtime. But you might be saying that this doesn't mean that he's on our side. I mean, he still tried to kill us after all, and he chased us down to the labs. Wait, chased us down? There's no way for Huggy to have chased us all the way to the labs from Chapter 1 with wounds and no sense of direction. Could he have been trying to get to the prototype? Well, no, that can't be the case because the prototype would have found him right when the doctor saw him fall in Chapter 1. Here, let's look back at where we fell at the end of Chapter 4. We are in a large cave system tunnel type area with the only exit points being our hole in the ventilation room, a random fence that leads to nowhere, and the labs. What's weird about this is there's no way for Huggy to have gotten to the labs by any of the other entrances from where the lab's entry is. The cave system is too large and we would have seen him. This means that the only way for Huggy to have gotten to us would have had to be from the same hole where we came from. But why would he be there? I mean, it makes sense that he came through a ventilation area. He's known for crawling through vents. But why would he go through specifically that vent and chase us down? There's no way that that's just a coincidence. This makes me believe that Huggy was actually called in by Kissy at the end of Chapter 4. Think about it. Huggy was clearly going somewhere, and because he clearly couldn't reach the prototype, there's only one other person that he could have thought might help him, Kissy. But when he finally arrived to the safe haven, he saw that it was destroyed, causing him to go through the vents to where she was at, where he would see Kissy injured and trying to run, so Huggy would try to catch up to her, but she would communicate with him that we were down there and needed help. So Huggy jumped down the giant hole, leading him to the labs when he saw us and immediately charged at us. Not because he was angry at us, but because he was scared for us being knocked out in there by the poppy gas, leaving us to the prototype, trying to break in to save us. I believe this because, well, let's think about it. There's no possible way for us to get out of the labs. The door on the other side is clearly blocked, and because we will be knocked out at the start of Chapter 5, that would make the only person to open that door behind us have to be the prototype, who would also probably be on his way there already because he would know we would be there. This makes me believe that at the start of Chapter 5, Huggy will actually be the one to carry us out of the labs and save us from from the prototype, not be the first one to try to kill us. This would explain why he is charging at a glass door instead of immediately trying to find another way. I mean, he isn't like Yarnaby. He patched himself up, he's intelligent, and because of that very intelligence, I believe that he will find a way to break into the labs and get us out. But that's it for what Huggy's motives are, so let's get into what he will actually do in Chapter 5. From what we know so far, we can tell that Huggy's first priority will be trying to find Kissy Missy with us in hand at the start of Chapter 5. However, I don't think that that will be too easy because of one of the prototype's lines at the end of Chapter 4, which says,
"Your collaborators, the few you have left, they will be dealt with."
This makes me believe that the prototype will actually capture Kissy Missy again, and because he clearly didn't care about Kissy last time, he clearly wouldn't care about her again. But because she would have no protection this time, I believe that she will actually be treated like Dog Day in Chapter 5. Now, although this is sad, think about it. Dog Day in Chapter 3 said this is what the prototype does to heretics, clearly foreshadowing what would happen to Kissy in the same chapter. And as we know in Chapter 4, because the prototype was clearly following Kissy and Poppy, it's pretty obvious that the prototype injured and burned her and planned to hang her up like how he did with Dog Day. But just in time, Poppy arrived and saved Kissy. This would lead into Chapter 4's ending, where we know that the prototype was lurking above us and planting explosives just to capture us, making Kissy, who went up there, much more susceptible than us to the prototype, leading to her being captured. But this time, we will have to save Kissy, but because we would be knocked out by the poppy gas for so long, I doubt that we will make it in time, and Kissy will sadly die in Chapter 5. Now you might be asking, what would Huggy be doing during all of this? Well, I think the answer is pretty simple. Because Huggy is back and on our side now, that only means one thing. He will die by the prototype's hands. Let me explain. We know that beyond trying to save Kissy, we will also be trying to save Poppy in Chapter 5. But as we know from the prototype's lines, Poppy will be deep in the labs, which is where the prototype resides and controls the entire factory. And if we will be with Huggy for a portion of this chapter, I believe that the prototype will try to kill him for being a quote-unquote heretic. Think about it. Huggy isn't like Doey. He can't just stretch himself out and become all-powerful when he's in danger. Huggy is overall not that strong and would easily be defeated by bigger toys like Yarnaby, so the prototype would easily just kill him on sight when we aren't with him, or might even hang him up too. But that's all of the theories I have for him in Chapter 5, so let's get into everything he will do. The chapter will start off with a plot twist of the door in front of us cracking open, and Huggy, instead of killing us, carries us up the ventilation shaft and follows Kissy to wherever she is going. However, on the way there, Kissy will be kidnapped by the prototype, causing us and Huggy to have to go our separate ways to find her, leading to us eventually finding Kissy being killed by the prototype, and this time, we unfortunately can't save her. From my guess, the prototype will taunt us in this scene like how he did with Poppy in Chapter 4, asking if this was all really worth it. This would lead to Huggy saving us again barely. But unlike last time, Huggy won't get away so easily, and the prototype won't actually assimilate Huggy, like the other powerful toys in Poppy Playtime, but he will just normally be killed. Think about it. He was injured and left behind in Chapter 1, meaning the prototype might see him as a defective's experiment, and beyond that, he would see us with Huggy, leading to him deeming Huggy as a heretic as well. And if that's the case, the prototype wouldn't just ignore Huggy, he would eliminate him for what he's done, leading to both Huggy and Kissy, the two halves to a whole, dying together, just like how they were positioned in the CG5 music video. But what do you guys think? Make sure to like and subscribe and click here for more theories.